Good day. Welcome to the Africans in America podcast. With me is Weruche.
Hi, everyone.
Weruche, you've been busy with some projects. Give us a rundown. I hear you are now Los Angeles' latest theater producer.
Uh, yeah, we just had our workshop, our first workshop over the past weekend of our play, and we are looking forward to the second part of it that's coming in a few months. So everything went well, and we're excited. So yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you back. I know you were very busy,
Mhm.
but while you were away, a lot has been happening. A lot has been happening in the world. A lot has been
Yes,
happening
indeed.
regarding Africa. But
Hmm. Hmm.
today we want to talk about one African leader who is blowing up the internet. His
Hmm.
name is Ibrahim Traore from Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, did I say Cote d'Ivoire or Burkina Faso?
Burkina Faso. That's
President,
okay.
the president of Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
And he has been an exceptional leader since he led a coup in 2022. He has been there for three
Hmm.
years now, but in those 3 years, he has um, attained a larger than life image. So I
Indeed, he
want to
has.
ask today, why
Mhm.
is Ibrahim Traore trending? Why is he so big on the internet and why is he such a very formidable force for hope in Africa?
Mhm.
But
And
even
Africa.
before we start, I want to share an image of
Mhm.
Ibrahim Traore in in yes, I think it's when he went to Russia recently, and he met with Putin, and he was welcomed by Putin. Him and a number of African presidents went to take part in the parade in the Victory Day parade in Moscow. They went to show support to President Putin as he celebrated the 80th anniversary of their victory over Nazi Germany. Ibrahim Traore led a contingent of Burkinabe politicians and military officers to meet with Putin and to discuss bilateral things. The
Mhm.
Russians also, Putin also met with a number of African leaders, including the president of Congo, the president of Zimbabwe, the president of Ethiopia. But by no means it was it was his meeting with the president of Burkina Faso, this young 36-year-old Ibrahim Traore, that has blown up the internet. Weruche, you are a fan, one of the global fans of Ibrahim Traore. Why do you think he's so popular on the internet and generally across Africa?
So Ibrahim Traore is doing, I heard in my head now, he's doing the Lord's work. He's approved and he's appreciated because he's doing the Lord's work. He is establishing sovereignty for his people in Africa. He's giving them a voice. He's making everybody go back to the drawing board to reassess what Africa is going to benefit, right? In the next, what Africa has benefited in the past century and what it's going to benefit in the next century if it continues to hang on to the clothing or the hems of the West, right? We have already done a review, a 1 year review, 2 year, 100-year review, a 200-year review. There's very little growth. It's very stagnated. And it's important. I mean, I believe one of the conversations we had when we started our podcast, we talked about the importance. I believe it stemmed from Donald Trump's US aid and all of that. And we established one key factor, which is it is time for Africa to stand on its own 2 feet. All the 54 countries and two disputed territories. making it 56. It is time for us to stand on our own 2 feet. If not, there will be very little advancement. And so when I look at what his work is and what his work has been, what he's currently doing and what he hopes to do, I see that same theme, which is it's time for us to be sovereign, right? To begin to dominate our own selves, begin to make our own decisions. And so another reason would be the way how articulate he has been in addressing what he intends to do. He's so clear. You can't mistake what he's trying to say. There's no mistake. If you pay attention to what he's saying, he's saying the same thing. Then when you tie it to what he's currently doing for his countrymen and women, you see a clear leader who has come from the midst of others to put his foot down. And not that every generation doesn't get blessed with an Ibrahim Traore. We happen to be blessed with an Ibrahim Traore now, who not only does he have his knowledge of history, right? He also has his determination. Like, when I say when you have raw determination, nothing is shaking you.
Mm-hmm.
We need that to see change happen. And so I appreciate it. I would hope that America would back Ibrahim Traore up and not fight Ibrahim Traore. You know what I mean? So that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the man has come to represent a new symbol of hope, you know. Africa has been a continent yearning for heroes.
Mhm.
While others will talk about their heroes of today, and we don't seem to have our own modern day heroes in
Mhm.
this shaping a new reality for Africa. So it seemed like he has just, being that he's youthful, seems like he has just held the history by its crops and just said, look,
Mhm.
we are going to change things in Africa. And just the effort, I don't think he has started to achieve the milestones and achieve major things. The things
Mhm.
he's doing are still yet to be seen.
In
But I guess it's just
progress.
the effort alone, the very fact that somebody has said, I'm going to change the reality of Africa. And
Yes, indeed.
that has inspired an offspring of hope for a lot of young
Mhm.
people, and that's because let's not forget some other African presidents have traveled this path. Let's remember
Mhm.
Jerry Rawlings in Ghana, even before Ibrahim Traore came on and became this shooting star. Now, Burkina Faso had. Thomas Sankara, who ruled for 4 years, and I think he did practically all the things that Ibrahim Traore is doing now. We
Mhm.
but you have to go back, and then Muammar Gaddafi to also try to be that kind of leader for his people, you know,
Mhm.
even before then. But you have to go back to um, pre-independence leaders before you can find any hero like this.
Mhm.
You will have to go back to Patrice Lumumba, Kwame
Mhm.
Nkrumah, and all those other ones who were there during the
Mhm.
independence of their countries. But in this modern day, 60 years after independence, it's so hard to find young, vibrant heroes, and that's one of the things that is
Mhm.
inspiring a lot of people to follow Ibrahim Traore.
Mhm.
Do you think he can sustain it? Do you think this will lead to some benefit for his country and his
I
continent?
I want to say yes, and the reason is the timing. The timing, it's coming at a time when I think again, because there've been a couple of triggers where Africa is beginning to realize that importance of doing their own thing and being sovereign, right? And I think that however it's coming, if you were a democratically elected president, or whoever he is now, who's a military president, it still would have garnered the same attention. And so, your question of is this, I think your question is it sustainable? Is it
Hmm.
something that we can see a clear, we can see clear progress from? Again, depending on how he's handling it, depending on how he handles it. And also, it also depends on his relationship too with the neighboring countries, which we already can see he has demonstrated. He already has Niger and Chad, with him, right? It's Niger and Chad, correct?
Niger,
It is
Chad,
Niger and
Mali,
Chad.
they're all
And
there.
Chad
It's mainly
Mali.
Niger,
So
Chad,
he already has
Mali.
support.
Hmm.
Already has support, and now we're beginning to see other countries wake up. Paul Kagame was I saw him in the news recently. He was talking about, you know, in one of these summits about Africa really taking a stand, and exactly what we've been talking about is being said across the board in different ways. He's gotten a lot of criticism, Kagame, right?
Mm.
However, I think that he's also being inspired by this young man too. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes when you have to also, when you operate, you can't operate alone, right? You need supporters. You need people to keep. And so time and place, timing is very key with
Mm.
all of this. And so now, if there are more voices like, Ibrahim Traore, then it catches on. It becomes a reality, as opposed to when you're the one person with good intentions for your country, right? Like I'm talking about Kagame now, but then obviously he always get flack from his countrymen who no, you can't please everybody. But now there's an Ibrahim Traore. He's a democratically elected president. I'm saying the Kagame guy,
Yeah.
but now there's Ibrahim Traore. Again, the same ideal. It's about your country. It's about sovereignty. I don't
But
see how it's not going to be managed well, or how it's not going to yield good results, basically. Mhm.
it's interesting that you brought up Paul Kagame. I've been to Rwanda. Even
Mhm.
before he became democratically elected, he followed the same path of Ibrahim Traore by being a military leader, first of all, then a
Mhm.
military president before they became a democracy. He too was very visionary, very strong-willed, talked about the
Mhm.
independence of Rwanda. So he too
Mhm.
also fell into that mold, but he came off a genocide in Rwanda, and there's a lot of antipathy and a lot of anger. He holds the
Mhm.
country with a very strong military, firm hands, and he has as much critics in the West as he has fans also in Africa. But there's no doubt that
Mhm.
he has survived his own reality for well over, I think maybe 15 years now, if not more, and he has really imprinted on his country. I visited Rwanda. It's not like a place you find in Africa. It's a very beautiful place, very clean, very tidy, very well organized.
Mhm.
But that brings us back again to the desire for Africans to want to stand by themselves, want to do things by themselves, but most importantly, want to live by their own choices. You see, Ibrahim Traore is doing something that cost a lot of other presidents, some other Africans, some
Their
pain.
lives. Their
Yeah,
lives. Cost them their
because
lives. Yeah.
in trying to realign with Russia now, breaking free of France, breaking free of the West, breaking free of colonial domination, it makes us worry and wonder if he can survive in this new reality. And I can understand when he tries to get very close to Putin. He tries to build strong alliance with Putin, if not directly with the Russian military protecting him, at least with the recognized Wagner group that has been known to be a very effective mercenary
Mhm.
group in Central African Republic and now in the Sahel. They have been very strong in the Central African Republic long before now. But so what would you advise? How would you advise Ibrahim Traore to play his cards in a manner that he can survive the machinations of people who do not particularly like the reality he's trying to push his country into?
And when you say the reality is trying to put his country into, you're referring to Russia, correct?
No,
His
I
association with
mean
Russia.
sovereignty, because ultimately
Yeah.
he's running under the
Okay.
umbrella of Russia so that he can get sovereignty, he can get a larger say for his country. Because
Correct. I mean, what would I advise? I would just advise him to continue on the path that he's on and just remain as transparent as he has been. I think transparency is what is causing is bringing in all the support that he's getting. He's been transparent about everything. right? And he's very clear and open. And so if he continues in that manner, I don't think he is opposed to working with any of the Western countries if their support is tied to empowering his community or his nation or his country, right? Or his country people. I don't think he's opposed to it. But for as long as there's going to be that opposition or dominance that worked in the past, but quite frankly is not going to work in today's world, especially with the advent of communication tools like social media, where everybody chimes in and everybody has a voice, everybody has a view, right? I don't see how it's possible, if the dominance is going to work. So if basically what I'm trying to say is his support, if he gains support from the West, right? Then that's it. But his job really is not about who am I going to gain support from? Because quite frankly, when you look at what's going on, he's not attacking anybody. He's simply preserving his community. And by so doing, right, yes, it could trigger some people, but I want to think that real leaders can recognize what's going on there. Real leaders will not see him as a threat, right? Real leaders will understand, okay, he's trying to protect his own, and they would instead support him in whichever way they can. He's not being a nuisance in the region. He's not trying to dominate the region and say, oh, let me take this person out, let me do this. No, his focus is on education, school, electricity, utilities for his country people. You understand? He simply said to France, enough is enough. Same thing, like you said, in Senegal and other countries are doing. Enough is enough. We want to be able to handle our resources, right? We want to be able to handle that particular resource called gold, right? And the real question that should be evaluated and asked is, why is France opposed to this? Right? If we want to ask real questions, questions should not be posed at Ibrahim Traore and what he's doing. It should be posed at France, particularly, and say, okay, over this period of time, there was a division of Africa, and you parceled up Africa and took Africa like, spread Africa like pizza, right? That's fine. We're not going, it happened, it happened. Now, what did you empower these little groups or big countries that you, right? Well, how did you empower them? And how much did they give to you? There has to be a review done, an honest review, because until we have honest reviews being done, there's no conversation. And what he's doing is just what he's doing to protect his people. So it's quite sad. I live in the West. I live in America with you. My job is to kind of, as a journalist, is to report it as I see it, right? Be objective. If he goes about doing something that is negative against another region, it is our job still to speak up against that.
Yeah.
But so far, all this man has done is try to preserve the resources for the children and the children's children and the generations to come of his land. I don't see anything wrong, and I don't see any real Western leader who's going to be opposed to that. A
But
real,
but
notice the
but
word,
but
real Western leader.
let's not forget that the mines that he nationalized were mines that were run by Western businesses, particularly British and French. And those businesses, they tend to go to the countries of their origin, even New York or France, Paris, or London, and get some outrageous judgments that let me give you a case in point. A company calls PDI or PD something comes to Nigeria. They did not deliver any product to Nigeria. They just claimed that there was a contract signed by people we don't know, and they claimed that they had a contract and that for that contract, because the contract was not executed, they demanded $6 billion from Nigeria, and they went to court and they actually won a case in court against Nigeria for a contract that almost never existed. And they promptly sold that debt to financiers in America so that the American government can now bring to bear and put pain on Nigeria. It took almost 8 years before Nigeria could extricate itself from that judgment. This is the kind of things those those people do. Let me give you another example. In Liberia, Liberia was selling rubber, and there was a company that Firestone Company claimed that the Liberian government was not paying their debt to them. And it took almost 40 years of repayment. In fact, it was one of the reasons why Liberia kept paying back that debt for over 40 years and remained impoverished. So these are the kind of
Mhm.
ways that they can go back and claim that Ibrahim Traore has done them economic damage. And,
Indeed.
and in this regard, they can now get a judgment that is very punitive in Paris. And on the basis of that, wherever there are any sovereign asset of Burkina Faso will be hunted down and seized. And this is just what we have been seeing. So it really bothers one when these things are done in a manner that can be amicably settled. Beyond that, they continue to push their intelligence systems because let's not forget that what we have done here is that he has removed a major player entrenched in the whole of the Sahel region for almost 40 years, if not, 50, since independence, France. They have been
Prior to
entrenched.
independence, now prior to
See,
independence, it
even
would be
prior to
prior to
independence
independence.
and then after independence, they had a defense pact where they purportedly protected democracies. What they actually did was that any democracy who tried to fight for the interest of their own country, they will encourage a coup against them. And that's the same thing that they did in Niger when one president was trying to say, give us better returns for our
Mm.
uranium. We keep seeing this, and that's why I say they may be distracted now by the issues in Ukraine. They may be distracted by what's going on regarding in Europe and in the Middle East and all those things. But they are it's not they haven't forgotten. They have not forgotten, and it is very imperative that Africa supports Ibrahim Traore. Don't forget that it took almost 15, 20 years before they were able to come after Gaddafi, but they did come after him eventually.
Mhm.
And and look what they did to Libya. Libya is still not where it should be. It's still a rump state since it was since the death of Gaddafi. So
Mhm.
these are the fears and these are the worries. We have
Let me ask you a question. So, if Torre invited us to interview him today, what's the one question you'd like to ask him? And um, what's the one question you would want to ask him,
I would
basically?
want to ask him what kind of how is moving his alliance and his security beyond just Russia. Russia is very formidable. Russia is strong here and all that, but we saw what Ukraine did recently when Ukraine organized a bunch of support trained Tuaregs and they did serious damage to Wagner Group and did serious damage to the Malian military forces. So there are still people out there. So planning to undermine him, won't want to. So how both from within his country. Don't mind you, some of the politicians who lost out, they are now the ones who are calling in other people to come in into the. They are still there as a group that the CIA can use, that the French intelligence can use. So my worry till now is his security. His security is protected now, but you see, people have he can be compromised even within his inner circles because people have lost out.
Yes,
So these are the things. I'll worry more about his security. I'll worry more
that would
about
be what
how.
you ask him.
Yes, I know he won't tell me. I wouldn't be expecting answers from him. But that's what I worry about because it's not just to be a hero for 5 years, 6 years. Thomas Sankara was from 2020, he barely ruled for 4 years. It is your impact is when you rule for a long time. Let's not
You
forget.
think he can go the path of Babangida, who went from being a military leader to being a democratic leader? Remember when he became I forget. I mean, you have to give
Yes,
me the
yes, yes. It's
facts.
the path that generally most military coup plotters take. They suspend the suspension, the constitution. They call for constitutional amendment and they call a constitutional conference. Then they build a new constitution. Then they assume a new role as that's what Kagame did. That's what many of them tend to do,
You think that would be a
including.
good path for him?
Well, it depends on the shifting tides. You know, there's still a lot of insurgency in the mid in the Sahel, and as long as now there's geopolitics playing out there. Don't forget this. Some of the insurgencies are actually sponsored by Western intelligence. We saw that in Syria, where and in Turkey and all these countries where the CIA and the Western intelligence allow these insurgent groups so that they can undermine and destabilize countries. It's so don't think that those insurgent groups are just going away, and that's where
Hmm.
it lies. Recently, the president of Chad, Deby, was killed by insurgents. He was shot, blown out, and then he was killed. And now his son is there. But so these insurgents work with Western groups and Western
Hmm.
intelligence, and they remain a clear and present threat to him. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay, and
my
I think my
worry is
next
about
question
his
is
security. Huh?
his security. He suspended the constitution post coup,
Mm,
but promises elections, right? Is he
mm.
rewriting the rule book,
No,
do you
it's
think?
not. It's not. It's a book that has been played out many times in Africa, many times
Mm-hmm.
in Guinea, even I just told you that Paul Kagame did it.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Chad, they did it. So it's not new. Many of the
Mm-hmm.
African leaders you see wearing a garb of
Mm-hmm.
of democracy. Former military leaders, even Museveni too, did it. So it's not new at all. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, basically, I mean, we all are saying the same thing. I mean, the whole world can be saying the same thing and be wrong, if that makes sense. People
Mhm.
have analyzed this, people are still analyzing it. I think that he's doing an amazing job. Um, I don't like that the country I live in and the country that's now my new home, which is the United States, is sort of playing an oppositional role. You know what I mean, when it comes to this. So I don't like that because number one, I don't want to be I don't want to have to take a stand, right? That would have to lean towards, okay, I support him. That is my homeland. Africa is my homeland. And even if Africa were not my homeland, even if this was happening in Asia, same way things were happening in Gaza, I would still support what's going on there. It doesn't have to be, the truth doesn't have to be upheld simply because I am associated with the truth or I am in close proximity to you know what I mean, to the region that is fighting for the truth. The reality is that right now, the country wants to be sovereign and people that they have identified, being France, as being an opposition or counter their growth, right? Being France. I mean, I understand them not wanting France there anymore. So I think that what we should all identify is the man's courage, right? He's a young man, his courage, his clarity, his strength of conviction. And that's what I admire. I like to watch leaders, and I like to watch not just leaders, people who are in authority positions, people doing their work. When they have that strong conviction, I know it's beyond him. It's coming from a place of he's been called to do this, right? And I hope this extends for a very long time. I'm not speaking on the association with Russia because if I don't have enough knowledge of conversations had of impacts in previous years and future plans, then I really am not in a position to even chime in as to whether, oh, Russia is going to be good or not good. You know what I mean? So I'd rather just watch by the sidelines, but focus on what he's doing for his country people, which so far has proven to be a lot and very, very good. So yeah.
Yeah, but you see, here's the thing. I used to work with politicians, and politicians will tell you this, right? that first you have to have the power and keep the power. Sometimes it takes a lot of effort to keep the power. So without that power, without the security and the fact that he maintains full and complete control
Mhm.
of his reality in Burkina Faso, it would always be a problem. That's why I worry. That's why I say, because it's supposed to be sustainable. I was just telling you how even Putin has been there now for over 25 years. His early days were turbulent because he too was taking on, he was doing the same things that Traore is doing now. His country had been bought over completely by the West and the oligarchs, and he was taking this thing and says, these resources are for our people. And they fought him, they demonized him, they used the Western media against him, they used the press against him. They did so much to create the monster called Putin that we now know because he did the same thing for the Russian people. But before, but within that time, he has raised Russia's GDP to being the number 4 in the world. He has redistributed wealth. He has made the growth in Russia. He has done so much for Russia. And with this Ukraine war, he has now won sovereignty for his country, made them manufacture things that they didn't even believe they could do. And this is what he did, and this is what he did over 25 years. But he had the power to stay in 25 years to manifest it. I told you how
Yes.
Kagame, when I went to Rwanda, that's a very beautiful country. It's growing, it's IT driven,
I'd
but
like to visit.
he has held that power and he has held it for him to be able to do things. In fact, when you hold power and you're very strong and you're very feared, it's easier for you to do things. I remember in Nigeria, if when Abacha was there, if Abacha says don't throw debt here, nobody throws debt. Everybody just behaves themselves. So there's autocracy
And I
has
look
its
at
own
it like
benefits and it has its own problems,
it has its own benefits. If you have a noble leader, someone with a conscience, whose real desire is to assist his country people and build his country back, the truth is that 4 years is not practical for his work to even have impact.
Hmm.
You need longer than 4 years.
So
You need
that
longer than 8 years,
yes,
Yes, the ones we're opposed to are the ones who clearly commit human rights violations against their people, who do you understand, whose rulership compromises or undermines the average person. That those are the people we're opposed to. But for people who are clearly doing the work, right, and establishing a better system for their people, we support them. And why go in there and disrupt what they have going on?
yeah.
We want
Well,
more. Mhm.
it's the way we see things may not necessarily be the way the people in France see things, or the ones who used to own the gold mines, or the ones who used to own the banks, and the ones who used to be the ones
Correct.
sucking the juice.
Yes, yes, indeed.
The,
When you think of things like when Africa was demanding that they return our artwork and art pieces, and you see how Britain, I have to keep up with that information though, but you see how in Britain, I have an article again, I have all these articles that I'm working on that are supposed to come out. You see how in Britain they shipped some back. They decided, okay, we're going to return because they acknowledge that yes, we took this many years ago. It's your property, it's your stuff, and we're returning it. That's what I like when I like when you have accountability. You say, yes, indeed, these people's property, we possess it, and they want it. It's different if they don't want it. It's different if they don't care about it. And so I'm bringing that to France to say, you have gained a lot. I mean, if people are telling you, leave my house, and don't you have a bit of pride, you must leave. You must leave. It's not even
hmm.
to be questioned. It's not about your gain. What about their gain? What about what they've lost from you being there at all? And which is why I keep talking about a review to be done. How long have you been there? And how has it benefited the people? And how has it benefited your people? Okay, we have to talk about it. It's not a question of, oh, if you because you gave a very good argument now as to why they could impose on them and say, oh, this has been dismantled. We've lost 40 million jobs since we stopped having looting other countries, etc. Right? That's fine. But you review it and say, how have I contributed and strengthened this economy? And how has mine at the same time been strengthened? Nobody's a fool. Come on. It's time for Russia, for France to go.
Okay.
To
That
leave those countries.
we,
Yes,
we
I approve of it.
with that we have to say we've come to the end of today's video. Well, Richard, we missed you in those few days you were not around.
I miss being on
But
here. I did.
in those few days, our subscriber base grew astronomically. We are
Lovely.
now at 1,300 and 70 subscribers, but I think our next milestone should be around 1,500. So
That's awesome.
we'll use
Thank
the
you
remaining
guys for
time to
following
thank
us.
you all for supporting our videos and for
Mhm.
subscribing. We want you to subscribe, like, share, share our message. We are very particular about Africa. We are particular about Africans in America, Africans in diaspora,
And America as
every
well.
single thing that affects Africa, whether from whatever part of the world we are interested in, and we will discuss because somehow it is the one answering diaspora is answering diaspora because of the realities they find back home. Thank you very much, and thank you for
Thank you,
being.
everyone.
Thank you, thank you, Weruche. Congratulations on your first workshop.
Production. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
More to come.
You all have a good day.